Greetings, fellow dungeon delvers, and welcome to Dorans and Dragons. My name is Justin, and I'm going to be your guide to bringing your favorite League of Legends champions to life in Dungeons and Dragons. Today we're building Zeri, the Spark of Zaun. Zeri is a battery and conduit of electric energy that her body generates. These powers are difficult to control and are amplified and influenced heavily by her emotional state. She grew up in Zaun in a humble working-class home where she was exposed to the struggles of simply surviving. Her family was warm and caring, and seeing them, along with the other citizens of Zaun suffering under the Chem Barons, pushed Zeri to revolution. Unfortunately, she didn't have full control of her powers yet. She created a jacket to help contain her power, and her mother helped her craft a gun to channel it. With these tools in hand and her community behind her, she's gonna rock the Chem Barons world. Before we get started with the build, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. We'd like to take a minute and thank our awesome patrons over on Patreon who support us every month. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on and the electrodes on my head firing when I need to focus on these videos. If you like our videos and want to support the channel, come join us over on Patreon today for just $1 to get access to our awesome Discord community where we talk League and D&D all day long. Speaking of Discord, on February 6th, we're having a trivia night, Jeopardy style, where the winner will receive a book of their choosing from D&D Beyond. If you want to get in on the action, join the Patreon at any tier or subscribe to our Twitch channel. Alright, now let's get into it. Here's a quick preview of the build. For race, we're going with Variant Human. Per usual, our stats are going to be determined using the standard array. For our stat priorities, we're going to max Charisma and dump Strength. We do have a multi-class requirement of 13 in Charisma. Our leveling path is going to be a quick level in Sorcerer, a 2-level dip in Warlock, and then we'll finish the build as a Sorcerer. Zeri's passive, Living Battery, is going to come from Armor of Shadows and Shield. Her Q, Burst Fire, is going to come from Eldritch Blast and Lance of Lethargy. Our W, Ultra Shock, will come from Ray of Frost transmuted to Lightning. Her E, Spark Surge, will come from Kinetic Jaunt and Wind Soul. And finally, we get our ultimate Lightning Crash from Storm Sphere and Quicken Spell. For race, we're going with Variant Human. Variant Humans get a +1 to 2 ability scores. We'll bump our Charisma and Constitution for extra Eldritch Blast auto attack damage, and some love with our concentration. We'll also pick up the Survival skill proficiency from living life in the hard-knock slums of Zaun. The final thing we get with this race is the free feat, which we'll use to pick up Warcaster. Warcaster is going to give us advantage on our concentration saves, and is going to let us auto-attack with Eldritch Blast when people provoke opportunity attacks. So when they start kiting away from you, you keep firing. For background, we're going with a custom one named Zaunite Revolutionary. We'll pick up skill proficiencies in Acrobatics and Stealth, and choose the Rustic Hospitality feature. This is going to endear you to the people of Zaun, and as a result, they'll protect you whenever and however they can, but not at the risk of their own lives. For stats, we're going with the balance Riot failed with on their initial pass on this champion with a standard array. Roll if you want to, but keep at least a 13 in Charisma for multi-classing purposes. We're starting off with a 15 in Charisma to power our attacks and abilities. Dexterity will be next because she's quick and we'll have a rounded off score for it. Constitutions be after that for her natural durability as a Zaunite. Intelligence will be next to help with our revolutionary schemes, and then we'll have an average Wisdom and dump Strength. And since we don't need any armor or equipment thanks to Armor of Shadows and Eldritch Blast, we'll kick things off as a Sorcerer. Sorcerers have a d6 hit die and give us proficiencies in Arcana and Persuasion. We'll also choose our Sorceress Origin, which is the source of our power. And what better choice for a living conduit of lightning than this Storm Sorcery Origin? Storm Sorcs gain the Wind Speaker and Tempestuous Magic feature. Wind Speaker is just going to give us knowledge of the primordial language, but Tempestuous Magic is going to give us 10 feet of flight as a bonus action every time we cast a spell of first level or higher. Importantly, this 10 feet of movement does not provoke an opportunity attack, and is essentially a free disengage whenever we cast leveled spells. Now, since we're taking the Armor of Shadows invocation later, which lets us cast Mage Armor at will, we're going to be able to have this 10 feet of flight whenever we need it. Is there a ledge 10 feet up you can't reach? Armor of Shadows and zoom on up there. With the terrain crossing potential of this, it kinda works for our E, but isn't the main component. We also get first level spells and cantrips. We'll pick up one of each here. Ray of Frost is going to work as our W, and let us make an attack roll and fire out a beam of ice that'll deal cold damage and slow the creature by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. We'll transmute this into lightning later, so have no fear about it matching flavor-wise just yet. The shield spell is going to give us our passive. It'll be up to you if you only want to use it when someone shields against your Eldritch Blast, which I think would match flavor-wise, but might not actually come up too often in gameplay. Now we're switching over to Warlock for a quick 2-level dip. Warlocks have a d8 hit die, so that'll give us a little bit of help, and we gain no relevant proficiencies. We choose a patron, who in our case is going to be the Celestial, because we might as well get some healing juju out of this. The Celestial Lock gains the Healing Light feature, which is a pool of d6s based on your Warlock level that you can use as a bonus action to heal yourself or others. They recharge on a long rest and will help our early game, but are going to fall off real quick. We do get a cantrip here that's important and the main reason we went this route, which is Eldritch Blast. Eldritch Blast is a cantrip that deals 1d10 force damage when you land a spell attack roll. Like all cantrips, it scales throughout the game, giving additional bolts at 5th, 11th, and 17th level, which is why this is a perfect version of your Q, especially when we quicken it, which we'll cover in a few levels. Second level Warlocks gain their Eldritch Invocations, which is basically Wizards of the Coast's way of apologizing for the pack slot magic system. It's a set of passive benefits you can choose from to customize and enhance your Warlock. We're going to get our passive and some extra damage on our Q with Armor of Shadows and Agonizing Blast. Armor of Shadows is going to let us cast Mage Armor spell at will, giving us an AC of 13 plus our Dexterity mod. Agonizing Blast is going to let us add our Charisma modifier to each bolt of Eldritch Blast, which is going to scale up real quick, especially with our quickening it, and gaining additional bolts as we level up. For our first ability score improvement, we're going to take Eldritch Adept to gain an additional invocation. We're going to get the slow on our Q with Lance of Lethargy, which will let us slow a character once per turn by 10 feet when we hit them with Eldritch Blast. The reason I'm bringing up here is because if you'd prefer the slow sooner, you can go this route instead of one of the other two. And we're back to Sorcerer for the rest of the build. Second level Sorcerers gain Font of Magic, giving us a pool of sorcery points to use. Right now, these points can only be used as a way to exchange and recharge our spell slots, but starting next level, they'll power our meta magic options. Speaking of meta magic, level 3 Sorcerers gain their meta magic options, which are basically just cool ways to spend your sorcery points and augment our spells in a certain way. We have 3 important options to cover here. Distance Spell is going to give us a rapid fire cannon improvement to our autos, and the distance increase on our W by letting us double the range of a spell as long as we spend a sorcery point to do so. Transmuted Spell will let us turn our W into lightning damage. And finally, Quicken Spell is going to give us the increased attack speed from our ultimate by letting us cast Eldritch Blast as an action, and then cast it again as a bonus action. We also learn second level spells, which is how we'll get our E with Kinetic Jaunt. This is going to last a minute and give us a 10 feet bonus of movement speed, inability to provoke opportunity attacks, and we can scooch through any creature's space without costing extra movement. Fourth level Sorcerers gain the first ability score improvement of the build. As always, we'll break down all of them for you here so you can pick and choose along the way. At Sorcerer 4, we'll go with Eldritch Adept like we discussed earlier, so you can pick up whichever invocation you didn't at Warlock 2. At Sorc 8 and 12, we'll max our Charisma by bumping it 2 points each time. And then finally at Sorc 16, we'll pick up the Mobile Feat for the 10 extra movement speed, and the ability to ignore difficult terrain while dashing. Level 5 Sorcerers learn third level spells. Now since we're literally channeling electricity, I think it'd be a real shame if we didn't pick up the Lightning Bolt spell here. This is a good version of our W without the slow, firing out a 100-foot long beam of lightning that forces a dex save on each creature in its path, dealing 8d6 lightning damage to each one that fails. 6th level Storm Sorcerers get Heart of the Storm and Storm Guide. Heart of the Storm is going to give us resistance to lightning and thunder damage. On top of that, anytime you cast your lightning bolt, you can deal half your sorcerer level in lightning or thunder damage to creatures within 10 feet of you. No save possible. Storm Guide is more passive, letting you control weather conditions around you subtly. Level 7 Sorcerers learn 4th level spells. We're going to harness a Storm Sphere to act as the big AoE damage portion of our ultimate. A 20-foot radius sphere of churning air and lightning spawns, forcing each creature to make a strength save or take 2d6 bludgeoning damage. As long as the spell is up, you can spend a bonus action on each of your turns to fire a bolt of lightning that'll deal 4d6 lightning damage if you land the spell attack roll. Remember, if they're in the sphere still, that attack roll has advantage. 14th level Storm Sorcerers get Storm's Fury, which is just a really strong Hellish Rebuke. Whenever you're hit with a melee attack, you can spend your reaction to deal your sorcerer level in lightning damage to the attacker. This then forces a strength save on the creature, knocking them back 20 feet if they fail. I have seen someone use this to knock an enemy creature off a cliff before, and it was epic. And finally, 18th level Sorcerers get Wind Soul, giving us immunity to lightning and thunder damage, and a little more movement for our E by giving us a 60-foot flying speed. The cool thing is we can reduce our speed by 30 to give 30 feet of flying speed to our allies for an hour. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. One of the best things about this build is how quickly it comes online. You'll be fully online before your character enters their 10th level. On top of that, this build is as busted damage-wise as she has been on release. Sorlocks are going to need a nerf in 6th edition Wizards of the Coast. There's a reason this video has more pentakills in it than any other video we've ever made. Now the bad. I mean, honestly, the only bad thing about this build is your classic ADC magic user squishiness. You have plenty of mobility to try and compensate, but if you get pinned down, you're going to have a bad time. Other than that, I really love this build. So what'd you think? I've included a link to this build via D&D Beyond in the description below, as well as Amazon links to the books used in this build. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have a few awesome rewards, and you get access to our awesome Discord community. We plan on churning out one League Champion build every week. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.